Today we're sitting down on the porch with Jo, a QHS member whose life is as heartwarming as a home-cooked meal. What paths did she follow to get to where she is today? Let's take a stroll down memory lane and see what's been cooking behind the scenes.
Hi, my name's Jo, and this is my prequel. I was born in Yorkshire, Sheffield, and spent the first part of my childhood up until I was 8 years old in the UK. We moved to Western Australia in 1982. I'm one of two children, myself and my sister Michelle, to Trevor and Christine Richardson, children of Eileen and Gordon Halley, and Gladys and Ernest Richardson. Ernest was a paratrooper in the war. He was part of the Brunaville raid, which made a huge impact in winning the war, is my understanding. Gordon Halley was also in the war. He was an amazing granddad. He was married to Eileen, who was a victim of the war. Basically, she got chased up the street while the plane was raining bullets down at her, and I just can't imagine how scary that must have been at the time. Chris and Trevor, they were later divorced, and I grew up from my early teenage years with my stepdad, Dan. I had a good upbringing. Other than the usual life challenges that we get thrown through those years, it was an overall happy home. I was usually out in the cab with my dad as a kid when we lived in the UK. Back then, kids were allowed in the luggage department. It was a lot of fun. When I got older, it was under car hoods that I spent my time with my stepdad. He helped me through the difficult teenage years. My mum is a very kind and loving mum, who always did her best to be there for us and supported me in anything I chose to pursue. When it was time to leave school, she said, "Get a real job or go back to school." So off I went to get the paper. I always loved metalwork, woodwork, cooking, sewing and all the manual things at school. So I applied for and got a job as a boilermaker, first class welder, which didn't surprise my mum that I got this apprenticeship. She just laughed and said that my nana was a welder in the war, so that didn't surprise her in the least. It was a great experience. During and after I completed my trade certificate, I was invited to feature in a documentary by the ABC and was in a few articles through a government initiative program called Tradeswomen on the Move to talk to many metropolitan schools in WA to encourage girls to look outside of the box for employment and not to settle if they wanted to explore non-traditional trades and non-traditional roles. Later, I was married to Rowan in Perth in 1996 when I was 23. When we decided to start a family, I had trouble falling pregnant. I learnt that my hormones were out of balance and I was diagnosed with hyperprolactinemia, an overproduction of prolactin, which, if left untreated, will continue to increase in size until it pushes on the optic nerve, where surgery is required. Thankfully, it is treatable by medication, which I'm still on to this day. I finally had my two beautiful children, a son Max and a daughter Jasmine. They are now in their early 20s. I loved raising my children. I still have a great relationship with them both. And I joke with my daughter that she is my little broke best friend that thinks I'm rich. I love my children dearly. I loved helping at their schools, and I also loved helping on the PNC as vice president and helped mum in the canteen. It became a real family affair at one point. When my children were young, I separated from my husband at the time and spent 7 years on my own, spending time with my wonderful children on a 10-acre farmlet, catching tadpoles, walking the dog, the cat and the sheep down the road. I enjoyed being in their world and working on myself as a person. After being with Rowan for 17 years, it takes a lot to reconnect to who you are. Thankfully, I had a job that allowed me to work week about, 2 days that my mum and my dad would have my children, and then 5 days on the alternative week that I didn't have them, so I had time for my children, even though at one point I did work 3 jobs to make sure that my children had what they needed, until I met a man that I am married to today, Alex, the love of my life, a gentle, kind, loving man who came back into my life after 25 years, bringing his daughter, Jade, and his granddaughter, Isis, into my world also. We started our journey out as young adults, then parted ways. We clearly both had some life lessons that we needed to learn before coming back together for a second time later in our journeys. He introduced me to Wayne Dyer and Carolyn Miss, which he discovered through experiencing his own trauma from previous marriages. This initial introduction led me down the path of personal development, and I spent years doing many different personal development courses, sifting through the trauma from some childhood experiences and from my first marriage. Finding gratitude where I least expected to, and with the support of my husband and the tools that I have learned, has made me the person that I am today. And it's what has helped me to navigate these last few years with what was thrown at us from 2020. It was also that journey that led me to Will Barney and Alex Collier. I have seen and heard Will Barney mention many times about wearing a QT Wave device while following his channel. And then I saw a podcast with both Alex and Will in an interview together, as I did actually follow them both at the time, both showing their devices. And then I just knew I had to be a part of this exciting trial with this new technology. I have been working with frequency healing machines for many years already with great success, and had been following the QHS closely, and now I'm a part of this amazing journey with these amazing souls, and I couldn't be more excited. My first introduction to completely losing my faith in the traditional medical system started about 15 years ago, when I had a simple duct removal procedure for screening for breast cancer. It became about a 9-month ordeal of infections in and out of ED for months after months, operation after operation, because one got infected and they couldn't stop abscesses forming. 12 to 13 operations later, I was referred to the infectious disease department at Sir Charles Gardner Department, who put me on the strongest antibiotics that they had for tuberculosis, apparently. They said they had exhausted all avenues, and if this didn't work, they would need to remove that breast altogether. There was no way I was accepting a mastectomy as the only solution, so I went on a search for alternative healing modalities. A naturopath was recommended by a friend who gave me some terribly tasting concoction made from succulents and told me to stay away from carbs, sugar, build up my immune system, and I never went back to hospital again. Everything fully cleared up and everything fully healed. I have never been really an unwell person, and since then I have continued to focus on my immune system to this day. Overall, I am a healthy person. I've always struggled to maintain a healthy weight. I have a few niggles here and there from sporting injuries, and in my early 20s I had a very, very tight iliotibial band from doing karate, which pulls my kneecap around to the side of my leg, and it pulls on my hip. And it's a constant struggle, just very painful. It's constantly aching. It's been an issue for me for over 20 years. This has mostly cleared up with having used the V6 device. I'm pretty excited to see what the V9 is going to do. I have a Versa in my shoulder that became swollen and inflamed because of a quad bike accident that I had a few years ago, which had continued to give me grief until again I started using the V6 around about April 2024. Then that cleared up also. I have lots of moles and skin lumps, especially from welding. I got on my top lower chest, and I also have a lot of skin tags. I monitor them closely due to family history, and I have noticed also that they've been clearing up in the last couple of months also. Since Dr. A increased the update to 1,000,000 hertz back in June, July, they all just started systematically shrinking and disappearing, which is really, really exciting for me. Right before he did the update, I noticed a lump on my head, and I had spoken to a doctor about it. He said that although it was benign, it would continue growing until it gave me, enough discomfort that I could have it surgically removed at some point, but that was really the only solution. This one just completely disappeared. I was checking it daily, and it basically just shrunk literally before my eyes. It was amazing. It was the first one that I did actually notice disappear. After the update, I was waking up every morning with an extremely itchy head in the areas of where the moles are. I started noticing day by day the lumps slowly shrinking. I decided after that I best take some photos before I had no evidence left to take because everything had shrunk and disappeared. I have also been diagnosed with a lymphoma, which does cause me discomfort when stretching and exercising. It's in my lower back, just above my hip. And my eyes aren't so good these days either. I can't wait for the V9 to come out to see what that's going to do. But mostly I can't wait for the QArc to come out until we can actually give that a go. I can't wait for the new me. I can't wait for the 30-year-old me to be able to exercise without lingering pain from my knee or from the lymphoma in my back, to be able to rid myself of these glasses and get my perfect vision fully restored, to no longer rely on the medications for the prolactinoma, and to have amazing glowing skin while being able to enjoy retirement with energy and vitality, and then so I can enjoy having a lot of energy for my grandchildren, when they finally come along, of course. I'm also very excited and looking forward to having enough energy and fitness to continue to enjoy this wonderful home that Alex and I have made for ourselves. 19 beautiful acres of Australian bush, which, as you can imagine, needs a lot of maintenance and upkeep, that I have always wondered how long we will be able to keep this beautiful home for into retirement due to injuries and illness. After going through the QArc, I feel that I will have the energy, and I'm very excited to be able to continue to maintain and enjoy this beautiful home well into our later years. Thank you.
Join us on the Prequel, where every story matters and every voice is heard. Because here at QHS, we're all about healing, learning, and growing together.